So, incremental greetings, Paul.
Hi.
So, basically, today we have a guest, Paul. He has been using Supermemo for almost 10 years. Oh my God. And it's
Yeah,
interesting.
9 years, 7 months, 30 days.
Yeah, exactly. I don't note this down. Up. I mean, yeah. But what is interesting in your case is that you have been using Supermemo quite consistently, but you haven't used incremental reading or almost just anecdotically.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm curious is about your stats, your analytics. If your usage differs, there's something meaningful. Any difference? If you instead you have used Supermemo for incremental reading all of those years.
Okay.
So the first thing that caught my eye already is that you use the final drill. The first thing I noticed in your statistics window, in the review, it says that you're in the final drill.
Yes, I am. I do use the final drill. I really like using it because when I've missed cards, I like to reformulate them, and often it requires a lot of thinking.
Is something you use usually?
I use the final drill all the time
Oh,
uh, because when I've missed flashcards, often there's a need to reformulate them, and sometimes the reformulation can take a lot of time. And I like to think about how to reformulate properly. It can take me sometimes 20 minutes to reformulate some ideas, and that's fine.
okay. I was not expecting that, so good to know. Okay, so you have 21,000 items and
Yes.
about 300 topics. So those topics, do you see those topics, or
No,
are
no.
no? Okay,
For some reason, it's just stuff I didn't dismiss, but there might be 5 or 6 useful notes in all these 375 topics. I don't use topics.
okay. So what you do? You do right click, add new item every time in the knowledge tree, or how do you add items?
In general, I create a topic and then I place a lot of clauses
Ah,
around it
cool.
uh, because I feel it gives something more organized.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nice. So I was taking a peek. So I see you have 485,000 repetitions, so close to half a million. And that means,
We're,
yeah. That means about 10 repetitions by average for items. Uh,
yeah, that's possible, but I think a lot of them are repeated maybe several times in the final drills. I'm not too sure.
I don't know. The repetitions in the final drill are not locked. That doesn't increase this number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I also see you have pending elements in the pending queue.
What?
Yeah, you have elements in the pending queue, 32,000.
Well, that's just the advanced
Advancing.
English.
Okay.
I no longer use it. I bought the advanced English and I no longer use it at all. Uh, so they're not going to be done.
And if you don't use it, why you don't delete them?
Because it would become skated and there's no need to delete them.
Okay. Nice. So let me take a picture. A picture. Overview. Ooh, the average time is below 5 seconds, which is the default. 4.5. Yeah. What you do in Supermemo, it's language learning, or you do a little bit of everything.
So um, I do language learning, English only, but that's not what I'm concentrating on. I think uh, one thing that is often not really discussed or thought about is that you can learn a lot more than language with spaced repetition and do a lot more than test. So I try to learn any idea that I find deep and related to problems that I care about.
I ask because usually the language learning is a lot quicker to review. So the average time will be lower. So then perhaps
That's true.
perhaps I guess that your average time is kind of low because a lot of the time invested to reformulate is during the final drill.
Yes, I think you're correct to say that in language learning, the average time will be very low, but well-formulated items, even on complex topics, will lead to a low average time too. It's not what is complicated is always the formulation of the items, not the repetition. And if it were math, math items would require a lot more requires a lot more reading because often if it were a theorem, it would be like uh, you might need to check 5 or 6 lines to realize exactly where you are and what rule you're using. But in a lot of topics that are neither math uh, nor language, the formulation time will take a lot of time, but the repetition time will be low because the structure is not going to be very complicated. I'll just give you an example of something I learned recently. There was the concept of a longitudinal study. So a longitudinal study is a study where you follow the same people, same group of people over a certain period of time to detect changes. So that's a concept that I memorized. So I can have a question, which is like, how do you call a study where you follow the same group of people over time? And the answer is longitudinal study. It's very close to a vocabulary card when you think about it,
Yeah.
but I can do also much more advanced concepts, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So the hard part is to reformulate this, but once is a good flashcard, well formulated, it's a lot easier to do the repetition. Yeah.
Yes, and that's an important principle in space repetition that for everything the time should be spent doing good formulation. And there it's worth taking all your time. But when you do repetitions, you want well formulated material where you don't spend a lot of time.
Okay. So then I see in your case your retention rate it's above 95%. So I call this a success. And I maybe assume that do you finish all of your repetitions every day?
Um, so there's this uh, veneration in some communities of finishing your repetitions every day. And I do not believe in that. Most of the time, I do. As you can see today, I have finished,
Yeah.
but I see nothing wrong with not doing all your repetitions every day. You should do them because they're fun, not because you have to maintain a streak, which I regard as an error. Uh, so I have the preference for finishing every day, but if I have any reason not to do them, the way I view it is that's not a problem because if what you're doing is fun, you never need discipline.
Yeah. It's because I see that your priority protection for items is 100%. So that means it's all covered. And the outstanding at the first number says 0. But interestingly, you didn't finish the outstanding queue for topics.
I don't care about it. I told you I don't do
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
topics.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But just to let you know that, strictly speaking, you only finish for items. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Then I think more or less there's not much else here we can draw from this window. Could you click on the third icon so we see the analytics?
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be very weird.
How often do you check those analytics? Sorry, analysis.
Um, Not that often. I mean, I'm glad that the software works, but I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the statistics or what I'm doing. I'm just glad that it does exactly what it's supposed to do, namely put ideas in my mind forever at the cost of doing repetitions.
Nice. Could you click first the forgetting tab at the very top? Yeah, exactly. Oh, nice. Optimal interval 0.41 days. Wow.
What's
That's
the optimal interval? Sorry.
yeah. Optimal interval is this how Supermemo based on your repetitions. Here you have 3,600. I'm pretty sure this is out of date. Is not using most of your history data.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, that means that the next time you will create an item, especially if it comes from the pending queue. For instance, if you will go with the pending queue that you have with the English collection, the English Advanced English collection, it will be using this optimum interval to know the next interval, because
Oh, okay.
you haven't made your item yourself via close deletion. Therefore, it doesn't use the close deletion interval. It uses this one. It was just to know if it was high or low, but yeah, it's very outdated, so that it's not that meaningful. Can you go to the first tab to use?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, here is more descriptive, but it's a good start because we don't know exactly what you have done. So can you go, for instance, in the work done at the
Yes,
bottom? Oh, nice. Nice to see you have taken some breaks here and there.
yes.
But you spend, oh my god, you spend quite a lot of time. Could
That's
you?
possible. I mean, it depends on the period. There are periods where I don't do any. There are periods where I, uh, I do a lot. It depends what interests me. So I can't really comment because I don't really
I can really see that. Yeah, in the plot.
I don't believe in consistency.
Yeah, yes, I see it. It's the other way around. Yeah. Could you click on the last one, priority protection,
Yeah, sure.
and then for these already items? Okay. So when you have 100% here, means there are no outstanding items today. You have finished
Right, right.
the items. And when it's low, is that it doesn't. We don't know how many items were there. We only know the lowest priority that was not done. So it was left outstanding. So at least it's good to know that you're not consistent. So what you say, it's it's true. And by curiosity, can you check on topics? That you said that you are neglecting
Topics.
topics. So all of those are dummy.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, super high and lows. Cool.
Yeah,
And
but I'm not doing anything. It's just that sometimes I think I use mercy or I don't, or I don't. I don't really. There's nothing to.
yeah, it's arbitrary.
There's no meaning in that graph
Yeah,
at all.
exactly. So that's also interesting. So it's like there's an English word for this when it's very high or very low, but nothing in between. So the average doesn't represent anything.
Right.
Yeah. Now, then if you click on efficiency,
What does it even?
it's the
Oh,
for
it's the forgetting index.
yeah
Well,
forgetting index. Oh, yeah. So I see some tendency here. The forgetting index is getting slightly lower.
yeah, I decided to increase it very recently. I'm just saying that um
Okay. And do you see those lines that are horizontal? It's because you
I was
haven't
on a pause.
used, yeah, exactly. You haven't used Supermemo. Or at least
Yeah,
you haven't done repetition. You could have been reading or whatever, but not doing repetitions.
yes, I think so. I think it was just I was not doing
Yeah.
repetitions.
So in order to understand this graph, I will need to know how many items you create. Can you go to newly memorized, the one to the left?
Sure, newly memorized.
Yeah, and now select only item new items.
So
Oh wow.
one, I think it was just a collection being merged with another. So the super
Yeah.
huge curve you see,
Okay.
it was not that I didn't add 2000 in one day. It's just that
Yeah, it will be the advancing
I
collection, something like that. Okay, we can discard this. If you click and move the cursor, you will be able to filter this out on the graph.
I think I can do like this. Like if you want to see more recent
Ah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is more meaningful. Yeah. Uh,
Well, I think it's quite clear that I have periods where I add a lot of stuff and
yeah.
periods where I don't do much.
Okay, so good to know that you're consistent in being inconsistent.
I mean,
Yeah.
the way I view it, it's very problem based. So let's say I care about understanding something very specific. I will start to research it and put a lot of things in it. But also after I've had such a burst, often I will need a bit of time to think about what I've just added. And I cannot add much stuff for various reasons. If I've added a lot of stuff, it means that I'm going to have a huge amount of repetitions to do,
Hmm.
and I want to correct the stuff I've added and make sure that it's well written and all that. So I'm going to have a while where I'm not really adding stuff, where I'm just correcting the old stuff, where I'm just um, doing the repetition of the stuff I just added, and this will last for a while. And at some point, I'll have a rather low burden, and I'll feel ready for another burst. So yeah, I do stuff in bursts. So if we look at more recently, I can remember more what I
Hmm.
did. Uh, so you can see here. Uh, I had a month where I was just correcting old stuff. And very recently, I had a new burst where I was interested in a prom, and soon I will just I'll probably do other stuff for a while, and I'll
Hmm.
return to a new burst soon.
Okay. Cool.
But
That.
again, I don't think that's necessarily the way to work. Some people might want to add a little bit every day. It's just that in my case, I get fascinated by some stuff, want to learn everything about it, up to the point where there's so much stuff that I need to wait for.
Yeah, I do the same. No, yeah, no worries. Now that you mentioned burden, can you show me the burden, the third tab?
Yeah, right now it's 112.
Oh no no no! I meant
Oh,
the burden
the,
is just for today. I meant
oh yes, yes, yes.
yeah. Here you go. This is the burden of every single day in your collection.
It started in 2019. I don't know why some stats were deleted. So you can see it's very. Sometimes it's low, sometimes it's high. There's really no attempt at the.
Yeah. Can you click on just item burden?
Yes,
It
of course.
it won't change much because you don't have many topics. Okay. So more or less, I can see that between 80 and 140, more or less.
Yeah,
So,
but when it's super high, it doesn't last long. It was maybe a period where I was
yeah,
into
exactly.
some stuff.
You keep reformulating, it decreases with some days, pam, 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 and eventually you repeat more or less the same pattern. Okay, good. Can you click on outstanding? Let's see it follows the pattern. Yeah, you had some peaks. That is after you have created many items in one single day. And then could you? Sorry, this is for items.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh,
it should not
okay.
be much.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't. In your case, doesn't change much. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But
That looks super
maybe a
different.
comment.
Yeah. Sorry.
Um, maybe a comment. A lot of the time, people try to compare statistics, but I don't think it's that useful.
Yeah. So I'm not going to compare statistics with mine. Let's say it's
Mm,
just I
mm,
want to
mm.
see the like the print of the flow you have. It's like if we were in medicine, is oh you have hypertension, you have this, so therefore uh, you can understand all of the system how it works with a disease, more or
You
less.
only see a picture. It's like if there's an object in 3D and I take a picture. The picture itself might not tell you everything. It might not
Absolutely,
show
yeah.
depth. Just right now, you see this, uh, and it doesn't tell you the problems I'm working on or why I'm working like that. Or uh, one thing is clear: the I'm doing it in a free way where I'm not trying to pass tests or do things like that. So I go according to my interest, and the interest can be sometimes constant, sometimes mercurial.
I get that. Um, could you go to the I think it's element count, and then for items is to see how it grow over time. Yeah, and now click on items.
So I think this show a pattern. At some point, I delete. At some point I merge collection together. That explained the spike that you can see here. At some point, I deleted some stuff that I thought was completely useless, and maybe I deleted stuff here too. So there are point where if I think a certain topic is no longer represent my interest or something like that, I will delete it. But the spike on the left is just that I merged two collection together. So I
Okay.
didn't add like 5,000 or so item in one day. That didn't happen.
Now today, you have one single collection, or you still have more than one?
Today I have a single Supermemo collection, but I have other collections elsewhere
Okay.
that are not Supermemo.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So in Supermemo, so what we see here is everything you have done now. You don't have
Yes.
any. Okay. Can you zoom into the most recent dates?
Of course, that's more interesting for me because I
Yeah.
recall more what I was doing. And look how there's burst where I
Yeah.
add a lot of stuff. It's it's very much in terms of there's a topic that interests me, so I learn a lot. I add a lot of flashcards, but often the fact that the flashcard is badly formulated only reveal itself in time, or that I might have to do to add a little bit of stuff to correct it, to improve the formulation or check details, or sometime I will delete one or two. But so that's how I work at the moment. There's a burst. I add a lot of stuff. Then I need a bit of time to process the stuff I've added up to the point where I'm ready for another burst. And sometimes I'm not the things I'm learning where I'm having bursts are not in Super Memo. They're in my other collections
Okay.
where um I process other type of subjects.
I think this has a name that I learned quite recently from Piotr Wozniak. It's called synotopical reading. It's when you read a lot of material from the same subject. So you concentrate and you read, I don't know, 20 articles, one research paper, a book, chapter, whatever, about the same specific topic in a very short period of time. Then you create a lot of flashcards as a consequence of what you have chosen to remember.
Yeah.
And then when it flattens, it's because you don't create no items because you invest your time reformulating the items you have created in that burst.
Yes.
Nice.
And today I was just doing some reformulation, and that was the plan for today. And yesterday I did that too. It took me quite a bit of time. I need to think a lot about these
So
things.
then I have the impression that you don't wait to leech or to lapse a card in order to reformulate it, right?
I don't wait for what, sir?
To lapse, to fail, to recall, you don't wait for this to reformulate the card.
If a card is badly formulated, I try to reformulate it as soon as possible. Yeah, you don't need to wait for it to fail. You need to, but failure is often an indication that it was badly formulated.
Exactly. Can you go to the distributions and let's see your lapses? Ah, okay. So that means,
I just want to say this. I think in the beginning where I was doing that, I didn't reformulate enough. So when you see things with 7 or 8 or 9 lapses, almost always it's badly formulated. And so right now I'm more advanced, but you can see some of my past errors, which was to allow that to exist.
you have history data from almost a decade. Yeah. So
Yes,
it,
yes. And I didn't have the skills I have now. So now you can see I have cards with over 14 lapses, but
yeah.
that's uh, proof of very bad formulation. It should not happen in a well formulated collection to have 14 lapses or more on some
Yeah,
cards.
it's
I,
that's
I
that's quite
think
a lot.
I think 5 is okay. Sometime or even 7 is okay, but anything above that uh, is a very clear indicator of bad formulation. Failure uh, when you fail at something, if it's not like a momentary lapse, but you feel you're either making the same kind of error over and over, or it's hard to recall or something like that, then it's really an indication that you should reformulate.
Yeah, if you want, then later we can check some examples that have 14 lapses. I'm assuming there will
Uh,
be.
no, I'll keep them a bit secret for today.
Ah, okay, okay. Now, can you click on repetitions?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that. Ooh, okay. So I'm assuming that the number 5 and 6 are most of your items that you have never lapsed.
Yes, I mean, and I suppose that items with low repetitions might be low lapses,
Ah, exactly. Yeah.
in. but I really think that my formulation skills have improved a lot since the beginning. And I I didn't do what I described the first few years, and maybe it's because I lack the skills of how to reformulate stuff. But I think right now I don't have any difficulty reformulating one of these cards. And I always, if I have a card with many laps, I notice a failure. Now I'm very systematic on finding exactly where the failure was
Action. You take
and
the
how to deal
action.
with it.
You take the action very soon. Actually, we can know that. I think if you go to A factors and then just filter items, yeah, wow, that's super crazy. So that means that now most of your items have 6.6 A factor, which is close to the 6.9 is the limit, by the way. It's capped by design.
Okay.
It's super high. You are very close to the limit.
Well, I'm glad because I
Yeah.
think that it should be easy. And I think the more you work at making the cards well formulated, the more it's easier afterward.
Yeah, so that means that by average, your items increase very quickly. So the intervals, with just a few repetitions, they will have a very high interval. Be-
Well, I'm glad that it means that because that's the goal of properly using a space repetition system.
yeah, can you click on difficulties? Let's verify that.
Yeah, that seems to be a bit more variable.
Yeah, you have some peaks, but I'm assuming it's because you have 10 years of data here. So it's to take into consideration. And that is the number of elements by difficulty, yeah. Okay, so you have, do you see at the right? It's one, and it's in 8,000. But
So these are the items to reformulate, I guess.
doesn't add up because you have 21,000 items, right, in your collection.
Yeah.
How come you have
Hmm,
like a peak of 14,000, 10?
I don't know. You're right. It's why would that? That's weird. I don't know.
Perhaps this is counting the dismiss. I depending how.
Oh, I think I know. I think I know.
Yeah.
Uh, it might be because the collection doesn't have. I have a lot of elements that have not been used so far, right? I bought the Advanced English collection.
Yeah, could be. So the dismissed
It
elements, perhaps they have difficulty already. I'm not familiar
Yes,
enough with
yes,
the pending queue.
but
Okay,
that
okay.
would make sense. If they already have a difficulty, it makes sense, but they've not been practiced, so the curve itself
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
become a bit untrustworthy.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. So
But that's the only thing that makes sense if you look at it
yeah,
this way.
and I think there's only one other tab that is useful for us, and it's graphs, the one to the left. Yeah, exactly here. Oh, this is super flat. This is the first interval. Oh,
Right,
interesting. So we could say that it doesn't matter how many lapses you have on the item. The first interval you get is between 2 and 4 days.
right.
But I thought your maximum lapse count was 14. But here,
No. It's just the way the graphic works. It's 14 or more, I think.
oh, okay, okay. So that means that you have items that you have lapsed 19 times.
Yes. And
Oh wow.
today I would reformulate very heavily. I think these 19 lapses are artifacts of the past.
Yeah. Yeah, we could check that with some filtering. Nice. But that was not the graph that I wanted to check. By the way, I forgot. Ah, yeah, the first grade versus A factor. That your A factor was crazy high.
Right.
And may I ask what's more or less your flow when you rate, you recall? Do you use the 5 different ratings? Or
No, I
you.
don't. I don't. I mean, I find this too tedious to use that many criterion. So basically, I use either the one for failure. Then I think I use two, which is pass, and then I might. the one which lead to the being in the final drill, and then I use either the maximum or near the maximum one. There's some ratings I don't use. I think it's too much to ask me to discern for
Yeah.
that many ratings.
Okay, so you do all of the years you have been using this collection, you have been consistent that you have used pass and fail grading.
Um, I think so, but yeah, I don't use all buttons. I feel it's way too much, and I think I'm not even sure if there's good evidence that having that many button is useful.
Yeah, it's negligible. Negligible. Yeah, Supermemo doesn't actually weight this much in the formula. But what they see the other sorry the yellow line, it very mildly goes up with the A factor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use the I don't use a lot of different grades. I think that explains it.
Yeah, so it's very flat because everything is very close to three, and three is the default. When you press space for the next repetition, it's equals to three. But
Okay, well,
something I didn't ask, and it's very important. Do you ever use priorities? Do you set priorities, or do you just neglect them?
I completely neglect it. I don't care about priorities, so it's not going to be representative if we look at it.
Yeah, if you go to the first tab at the bottom, it will be absolutely arbitrary. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the factor. No, no, no. Oh yeah, we have seen the first one, the last one, right? Grade versus forgetting index.
Uh,
No, but it's again the same thing. It's very flat. Yeah, so it's very flat. It's like the opposite. So you're inconsistent on the usage because you learn by pleasure, but you're super systematic on your approach. That you always grade
uh,
following the same just pass and fail. You reformulate as soon as you can, and so on.
yes.
Nice. Then I think here we are done. There are like a few hundred more plots, but they're not interesting for us. Another question I have, unrelated to statistics, since you mostly don't use topics, do you ever use the source registry? Sorry, the references registry?
I have no idea what that is, so I guess no.
Yeah, okay. But just to see the count, so you are not sharing anything private. It will be just accounts. Can you click on search at the very top, the toolbar?
Um, yeah,
Yeah, reference. You have 31. Okay, so you are not
I
even.
don't know where they're from. I can tell you I didn't use that explicitly as far as I know.
Okay, but you use images. Oh, this is from the English collection. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
No, I have my own images. I use images. I search images all the time. I like
Oh,
to add images.
and you
It's
have
not
to.
just the collection. I also add images when I can.
Okay. And the concepts, you only have two concepts, and one is the root. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't use concepts at all.
No, I don't use them at all. I think one was added when someone was showing me how this work, and that's all.
Okay, nice. So it's good to see that you can use Supermemo for 10 years, neglect priorities and concepts altogether, and still have value of this usage. Because, yeah, I don't know exactly how you do your flow, but it's not incremental reading. So you just copy and paste text, you make the glossation, more or less. You don't do
Some
repetitions, that is reading.
No, no, I don't do any repetitions. That is just pure reading. Sometimes I might copy paste text, but I'm going to right away transform the text in flashcards. So I might copy paste the text in the topic thing, and once it's in the topic thing, I'm not going to reread it a few days later. All I'm going to do is think about it to how I'm going to formulate it into flashcards. So I'm going to modify the text up to the point where it gives me something I can turn into flashcard, and then I turn it into flashcards.
Okay, so it's interesting. Yeah. I think, yeah, I don't have more questions. I think that I see just makes sense. Ah, yeah, sorry. You said that you modified the what's it called the desired forgetting index, right?
I said I what?
That you modified the desired forgetting index.
Oh yes, yes, I
Yeah.
put it at 16%. Yes, yes, it's been requested to be 16%. I thought it was, I placed it too low and I want to do less repetitions. I don't see average fall getting index, as you can see here, I put it at 16%. I think so far, some information we have on this topic shows that at around 16%, you end up doing less effort.
Hmm.
Like if it's too if the forgetting index is too low, you will review your cards too frequently. If it's too high, you will forget them too frequently, and in both cases, you end up doing more work. So I think something like around 16% might be close to ideal rather than the suggested 10%.
Hmm. And before you have always used 10%, I'm assuming,
Uh,
before changing
I
this.
something like 10%, maybe not exactly 10%, but yeah, now I switch it to 16%, and I do hope to see do less repetitions being done.
So that means that you have modified the forgetting index of the entire collection. Every single
Yes,
item requests
yes.
this, yeah. But your forgetting index is about 9%. So you still have some time to catch up.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
not a problem. It's
Hmm.
just it's been measured at 9%, so my average might have been around 9%, but now I want it much higher, and
Hmm.
I just want to spend less time doing repetitions.
Cool. One final question. Do you think now that you're more like knowledgeable of, let's say, more consistent with your flow, that you reformulate this and that, and you know how to use the software? Do you think that now your sessions are more pleasurable if you compare this from 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
No, no, because I feel even if you're a beginner and you don't know how a software works, it can still be pleasurable uh, to uh, to do things. There's uh, there's no need for experience to find pleasure in things. A child uh, who plays soccer for the first time might have even greater pleasure than the advanced foot, football player. Uh, you don't have to be good to enjoy something. You just have to have problems you care about and that you want to solve.
Yeah, I yeah, I fully agree. Let me one detail. So you said that before at the beginning you were losing, failing a lot of cards and many times, like 14 times and
Yes,
so on. Was this not
yes.
creating how's it called? Was this not affecting negatively for your enjoyment during the sessions?
Um, it it does cause mental fatigue if you have a leash. That much is true. But mental fatigue and finding a card tiring indicates a prompts, but prompts don't necessarily indicate pain or displeasure.
Okay.
So certainly it does indicate that something has to be done. I didn't know how to do anything, and I didn't think about how to solve the problem. But every time I did notice mental fatigue, and that maybe I could do better. But that's not the same thing as not enjoying the process. That's just noticing. It was very minor as an inconvenience. It's not even at that time. It was not the majority of my flashcards. It was a minority where I did notice that it there was a problem to solve. So you could say maybe it decreased pleasure, but not that much.
Okay.
But now that problem is mostly solved, I feel I'm very, very good. After 10 years, I'm finally very, very good at reformulating bad cards. So,
Yeah, so the conclusion is that at the end of the day, it's about the soft skills, how to reformulate, how to ask questions, rather than how to use all of the features here and there.
oh, yes, you don't need to know that much features, to be honest, to be able to use the software. So, the software, if you look at it, it has way too many features. It has way too many stats. Like, you look here, it has a status. I don't know what that is, difficulty, retentions. I don't know why there's that much stuff because the reality is you don't need much. All I need to be able to do is how to create flashcards and how to reformulate them and how to add them and how to set the forgetting index. I have no interest beyond that. I know that some people like these statistics and these things, but for me, it's just about you play stuff that interests you. You do flashcards about them, and you do them whenever you want. And as long as you're somewhat regular. You don't even have to be that regular, but as I don't know why there's a call for regularity, because the algorithm is quite resilient to change. If you're supposed to do a card in 1 year and you do it in 1 year and 7 days, it doesn't change much from the point of view of the algorithm. And in the same way, if you do it in 1 day or in 10 days, you haven't invested much in the card. So even if you fail, uh, okay, you failed. That's a small problem. You have to redo it, but it's going to be, you don't lose much investment for a card where that is very new, while for cards that are very old, you have invested a lot in them, but the small variation don't have much impact. So there, there there's really a cult of the algorithm of doing everything every day, but that's just not how. That's just not true in terms of effort done. There's very little impact of doing it at exactly the right day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, think about it. A card that is due in 1 year or 1 year and 1 day, does it make a difference? Or 1 year and 1 week, or even 1 year and 2 weeks? Or and for the new cards, the thing is you haven't invested much.
Yeah, doesn't
So
make
whether
much
you,
difference. Yeah, whether it's into long term.
yeah, that's, it's like something where you have like a bell curve, and as long as you're close to the center, uh, deviation don't matter much. It's just if you go far away from the center, now small deviations or deviations begins to hurt you. But it,
I yeah. By the way, I know that before I said the last question, but I have yet another one.
yeah,
Is there a reason why you don't do incremental reading in Supermemo?
um, I tried, and every time I failed, and that's the first reason. And the second reason might be deeper. When I use when I make flashcards, it's always related to a problem that I care about at the moment where I'm caring about the flashcard. So I always have a problem in front of my mind that I'm trying to understand, or something that I'm trying to understand right now. And I only care about the problem in my face right now. I really struggle to have any kind of long term plan. I feel like the long term plan or the long term knowledge come from all these little moments where you're trying to understand all these small little pictures. So it doesn't make sense for me uh, to do incremental reading, where I have the impression the goal is to develop some overarching knowledge with a long term plan, which I completely lack.
Yeah, you seem like you are very focused on solving problems.
Yes, yes. I think the goal of anything I learn in general is that I want to understand something very specific, uh, and I need to learn stuff in order to understand whatever I'm trying to understand. Every single time that I enter something, it's because I'm curious about something. There's something I want to understand, and or there's a problem I want to solve, and it never go deeper than that. And if I need a big picture, it get built incrementally by adding stuff. The more I know about a particular topic, the more I guess I can go into the detail of a particular problem.
Cool. But the key that you mentioned is that you get curious. So you are following your curiosity.
But sometimes there are problems I care about where the thing might not be necessarily done for pure pleasure. uh, to give an example, it might be necessary to read about plumbing if you want to solve a plumbing problem. That I might be slightly curious about that, but I might be trying to solve a really real life problem.
Ah, yeah, yeah, I get the example. Yeah. So you are motivated to solve the problem, but if you haven't had this problem, you will not be interested in learning that.
Yes, but from is taken in a very wide sense. So the largest definition I can give for a problem is that a problem represents a conflict between ideas where you're not able to have a coherent picture, or your explanation for something is failing. Or so a problem that might be, I don't understand something about ancient Roman culture, and I want to understand it
Ah, okay.
because it prevents me from developing a wider picture about their view of physics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I get it. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Do you want to mention something else that I haven't asked that you think it's worth?
Not really, because as I told you, you were the one curious about these statistics, and I was a bit less. I'm happy to indulge you, but I'm less curious than
Yeah.
you are about these stats.
And what for the people who see this video in YouTube and they struggle with incremental reading, what would you say for them? What some tips or suggestions?
Well, I don't use incremental reading. My only tip is that you should not try to reproduce learning methods of other people if you don't enjoy using them. You should only use methods of learning that you thoroughly enjoy and see the value of. And if it means that there's something that is potentially great, like incremental reading, that you don't feel like using, that's fine.
Yeah. So don't copy the experts because they are the experts basically.
And sometimes they might be wrong.
Yeah. 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 Cool. Then thank you for your time, yeah, your
My
insights,
pleasure.
and sharing a little your collection. I would have liked to dig more into the elements, but I know this will compromise your privacy. And yeah, and see you incrementally.
Okay. Bye, Gilam.